Good morning, sir. Yes, sir.
Good morning and welcome to online classes where we are supposed to discuss English language teaching and we are on to fourth unit where we are supposed to talk about need analysis. So yesterday we talked about what need analysis is and how it is a core element for the course design and the importance of need analysis. I gave you yesterday an online interesting exercise, and it was to know what kind of learning style you have. And I hope that you have enjoyed it, looking at how you learn if you have answered honestly. It's really interesting to see the variations within such a small group because it gives you an insight into what uh, tools that are available for us as a teacher, and it also makes you aware that what kind of efforts do you put in order to make yourself good learner. So here are the results. If you are auditory learner, you might like to sit and hear things. That means a lecture method is good for you. Uh, uh, so what you need to do here is to check your hearings, your earphones, your ears regularly. And that will help you to grasp things as much as possible. So you don't want to miss on anything as far as the spoken words are concerned. So what you need to do in order to make your learning faster is to make flashcards, a card where the words are written or the ideas are written, and then read them aloud. So if you come from this auditory learner background, or you have this component in your learning style that you would like to do this, then read them aloud. Um, Personally, I would advise you to do that. And if you don't want to read again and again the same thing, I would request to record the things on your mobile and then put your earphone inside and then start listening to what you are reading. So you would like to read stories, assignments, and even directions aloud, that where to go, how to go, what the stories is, what the stories are. So basically you would like to speak out things for yourself and for others as well. So when you were in school, you may have done this, that you would like to spell the word and then speak it out aloud. And you might be doing this in your examination, that you would read the question aloud, and since it's an examination situation, you would read it aloud in your mind, and that's how you prepare. So what does this auditory learning style tell us? That there are students who would like to sit and hear, and it's okay because it is their learning style. So how can you as a teacher make sure that they are hearing and listening whatever you are speaking? So what you can do, all the time you can make a question and go back to the last benchers and say, are you able to listen to what I'm speaking? Am I audible? Such questions will make sure that auditory learners are with you. So when you have flashcards and notes with you as a teacher, the students, if you know who are the students who would like to read aloud, who are the auditory learners, then you can ask them to read. Because when a tactile learner is asked to read aloud, he might not like it. Those who would like to see things, they might not like it. So you can have a group of 3 students. If you have a good number of students in your classroom, then you can pair the groups according to their learning style. One could be the auditory learner, the second could be tactile learner, and the third would be visual. So those who are visual learners, you give them flashcards and ask the auditory learner to speak it aloud. So while the auditory learner is reading it aloud, and the tactile learner is watching, you can ask tactile learners to perform the verb or the word, like it's like dumb shafts. So you can design your activities based on the learning styles that you have discovered within your group. So this is what looks like when it comes to our class. See the number of students who are really into audio learning, auditory learning. Uh, Shruti scores the highest, and that's very interesting. That almost everybody would love to listen and then learn, but that doesn't mean that they are not into different kinds of learning styles. Majority is auditory learner. You can see everybody would like to do, and if you get the average of these students, it's almost 30. 30 is what you are supposed to do. And will allow you to understand that this is how my group of students would like to do. And there are visual learners in the classrooms where some students, if they like to learn through visualization, they would sit in the front. But it's not that they are teachers' pet. They are in their good books of the teachers. It just happens that they love to see things very closely. So those who sit in the front are visual learners, remember this. And those who are sitting at the back, you have to guess what kind of learners they are. And that's very interesting. So if your visual learners are there, you have to make sure that whatever you write on the blackboard, whiteboard, or whatever you display is visible. And they have to have their eyesight checked. So when you write something on the whiteboard, blackboard, or even smartboard, make sure that the last student on the bench in the classroom is able to read what you have. So the font size of your writing should be enough for the students to read. So you can use flashcards, but now it's a different one where you have to have a visual element. So now you said, sir, you may argue, sir, in the previous also you said flashcard has to be used. So here the difference is the flashcard with spelling in the first instant. In the second instant, that is the visual learners, you can put a picture of the word. Suppose you are talking of sparrow and you want visual learners to visualize the sparrow. And they might not have seen the sparrow if they come from a primary school or even a playgroup. So you can put the word S-P-A-R-R-O-W, sparrow, and then a picture of the sparrow. So those who are visual learners will look at the picture first and then will go to the spelling, the word. And those who are tactile learners will do this. Okay, this is sparrow. Okay, this is sparrow. So they will enact, and that makes your class more interesting. So you would like to visualize whatever you hear, and you like to write, because when you write, you are visualizing what you are writing. So if you are having a habit of taking notes, that means you are in between visual learners and tactile learners. So make sure to understand this. Questions will help you to understand the learning styles of your class. So they like coloring exercise because it's visually appealing, all the colors. You can use pictures to explain, and you may get distracted easily. So those students who are visually learning, they might look outside window if there is a chance, a slightest chance, where the teacher has lost the control. He will look outside the window, and then his imagination will start thinking. Or it may happen that while teacher is teaching, he may be looking outside, but he is hearing what the teacher is trying to convey, and he is trying to imagine what the words are. So these learning styles help the teacher to understand the different mindsets of the learners. This is what the visual learners in our classroom are. You can see again almost, if you look at the average of the visual learners in the class and compare it with auditory learner, we are visual learners except except Arya, who is not that much visual learner. She would like to do things with her hand. She would like to use motor skills. So if Arya is present, may I ask you a simple question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Arya, are you into dance?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that says everything. So those who are interested would like to do things. Those who like to do something with their body, they would like to use their body to learn. Not only body as a body, but all the senses that we are we are having. Five senses, if I'm not wrong. So those are the class profiles for the visual learners, and would be interesting to see the tactile learner profile now. See, they take activities like touching, building, moving, drawing, and they don't want to sit idle. If they sit idle, it's boring. They walk, they chew something, they even rock in a chair while they learn. I have a friend who lives downstairs from me. He has a rocking chair, and whenever he is reading or typing or making presentation, he would rock in the chair. He has a rocking chair. So I can see that he is a tactile learner, and there is a lot of background to that, and we can discuss, but I don't want to discuss personal issues because maybe person doesn't like. Okay, so if you like using flashcards and arranging them to demonstrate relationship between them, so you brainstorm things and then you could say, okay, this is connected to 1A, and okay, no, this is connected to B or C, and the C has relation to F, and that's how you try to learn. And when you were a child, you may be using your finger when you were reading. So whenever you read, so you would do this. Do you use finger to trace the new word spelling? So you would read with the finger. You would trace the entire book with your finger, because the finger will give you a sense of touch. And that's how you get in the knowledge that you are supposed to acquire or learn. You like to take frequent breaks, not longer breaks, but 5 to 10 minutes break. Remember Three Idiots, a virus, he used to take power break, not power naps, not breaks. He used to sleep for 15 minutes exactly during the afternoon. And it is called a siesta. So he would take siesta for 15 minutes exactly, and on the 16th minute they are awake and they will do things like they were doing previously, and they sound normal. In fact, I have experienced one of my research supervisor when we went to his home for a couple of research articles reading together. So he was tired and he said, Mrunal, let me go and get a sleep for 15 minutes. I'll be with you after 15 minutes. And exactly like this idiot, Three Idiots virus, Woman Irani, our professor also came back on exact 16th minute. And we were so surprised that if I go to sleep in middle of something, it is very difficult to get out of my sleep, to get normal routine. So once I go sleep, it's sleep. That's it. So they do like this, and the tactile learners has this feature. And therefore, whenever you are planning a session, you have to make sure that your tactile learners get a break, at least 2-3 minutes break in a normal classroom. And how can you do that? You can design an activity where they get up and do something. If they do this, they will be more involved into the classroom, right? So they would like tapping on the benches, they would scribble something, they would shake their feet or foot, they would hold on to something while they are doing while they are learning. So these are the habits. So I remember one of my friends used to put the pencil on the bench, and he would do this. And sometimes it's so disturbing. And teacher also gets distracted. So the teacher would say, please don't do that. And though it's a request tone, but still it's distracting. So those who are learning from doing something, these are the habits that they can't get away with. So we have to keep in mind that those learners have a specific habits, and the specific habits allow them to learn faster. And they use computers. They use computer a lot to reinforce the sense of touch to learn. Like some of them, you can use a pen and paper also. Some of yeah, when I was in my PhD, that's very interesting. You can't imagine writing 100,000 words in writing. The entire thesis you will write. You can't imagine that you may write this many words in a sitting, in months of sitting. So there are students, there are learners who would write everything they come across. And as the pen and paper is becoming obsolete nowadays, there are people who would write it out, everything on their computer. They would take notes, they would use Word or even notes, OneNote or instruments like that. The only objective behind is to get into the sense of touch with pen and paper and make things happen. Make things happen in the sense that it is with that pen and paper, you get a sense that you are involving not only the motor skills with your hands, but also eyesight, and your brain is working at the same time. So you are trying to engage the body into your learning things. Let's see what kind of profile we have in tactile learners in the class. You can see almost everybody has less than, less than Arya and Parisha. Hardi comes. I'm not surprised that Hardi is not a tactile learner, because she loves to do things with her hands. And as you have heard, Arya, that she is into dance. So she would like to use her body. Now, if you imagine that you take this learner profiles before even the course begins, how much helpful these profiles would be. Can you imagine the benefits? I would like to stop sharing at this point, and I would ask you to give me the answer how this learner profile would help you to think about your class. Let's have a couple of sentences here and there to discuss how this is going to help as a teacher and as a learner.
So for me, I guess, considering that my profile was scarily accurate, I would say that as a teacher, it would give me certain guidelines so that I can structure my activities to include all the types and make sure that each of them is getting what they need, and I'm devoting enough time to them. Okay. And as a learner, it tells me, like, I am I get distracted really fast. So it tells me, okay, this is something that you're not supposed to do. So it makes it easier for me to learn.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Shruti, Arya, Harvi, Vidhi, Parisha?
Sir, like, अब मुझे पता है कि I'm a tactile learner, so I can tell my parents. Like, while I'm reading, my parents will be like, क्यों हिल रही है, पढ़ना, क्या कर रही है, पढ़ना. I am a tactile learner. Don't say anything.
Okay, that was a lighter side. But as a teacher, if you go to the classroom, how this learning styles would allow you to make your course design more accurate. Do you think that this is going to be helpful, seriously helpful? Okay. So I guess that you have got the point, and let's move on and start thinking about how it can help. Like as Laya said, that this basically helps you to design the course and activities. See, it may not be so accurate to an extent. So personally, you may say now that yes, this is scarily accurate for me, but may not all the students, when they answer the question, they may not answer honestly. But if they answer honestly, this is actually a mirror of the class, that what kind of activities you are supposed to do. Like tactile learners, they would like to move around. So again, when you have this profile, you can't have benches, cluttered benches in the class. You need open space. If you have lots of visual learners in your class, you don't require a small blackboard. You require a huge projection. If the profile of the class majority is of auditory learner, that means the teacher's voice should be amplified enough to reach to the last student of the class. Not only that, when you design an activity for any learning lesson, you have to keep these in mind. And when you start pairing the groups, or when you make groups of students, you have to make sure that you combine these learning styles together. See, if there are 60 students in the classroom, it won't be possible. But if there are less than 20 students in the classroom, you can do these things wonderfully. And each of them, despite the learning style differing, they would love the company of their classmates. If you place a tactile learner with audio and visual learners, both of them are going to like the way people are interacting. And these interactions will give them different perceptions. Oh yes, you see the sound, I see the picture. Oh, I see the voice, I see the picture, I see things by doing, I learn. So they will try to accommodate themselves and they will understand each of them better. And in peer learning, this is the most important element that a teacher can give the students. Remember, learning styles need to be done at the beginning of any academic session. And after taking this session, you can group your students, you can arrange them in a way that they have, they sit near the person who is opposite to their learning style. And that will benefit the learners a lot. Any questions so far? Okay. So, another instrument to understand and to carry out the need analysis are interviews. Excuse me. So, what do you mean by interview? Very simple question, and I know you can answer easily, but I would like to hear it from somebody other than Laya. What do you think of interviews? Come on. Okay. So, interview, the word itself. Yes, somebody is trying to speak. I can hear the audio, but that's fine. Yeah,
Interview can be something that you can judge someone's personality and his mindsets and the things he have inside him.
Okay.
By asking some few questions.
Yes. Okay.
which can
Now,
help judge
yeah,
one's
yeah.
personality and
Okay.
perspective.
Okay. Now, this answer has one word which allows me to think in which context the answer is given. It is the answer relates to job applications or to evaluate somebody. Now, when we say interview, the basic meaning that comes is inner views, what his inner views are on a topic given to a person. So there are interviewee and interviewer, right? And when we talk interview in the context of research, the entire meaning of interview changes. Now, when we say interview in research context, and we are thinking of need analysis in English language classroom. So now can you think what we are looking at? We are not looking at judging anybody. We are looking at what are their views about English language? What are their needs about English language? What do they think about English language? Do they think English is a difficult language? Do they think English is an easy language? Do they think that English is a language of the colonizers? Or do they think that English is an opportunity to the world? What are their views? We want to understand the views given in the context of a research project, in the context of our needs. And therefore, whenever we say interview in English language classroom, we are looking at understanding their need. So it's an interaction between a teacher and a student. Now, there are different types of interviews. To begin with, we have a structured interview. The structured interview has a list of questions, and you know somewhere that what the answers would be, right? So, do you like to speak English in the classroom? The students will say yes. Do you like to listen to English songs? The students will like to say yes. So these are called structured, and within structured you have open-ended question and close-ended questions. So this will give the teacher an idea what the students think about English language and their needs. So these interviews, the structured interviews, will give you a specific and very narrowed down ideas on students' views on English language and their needs. And there are unstructured interviews. Unstructured, you just go and have a conversation with the people and you record the entire conversation, and later on, it's a kind of informal discussion, informal talk. They respond you to a question, and from that response, you start asking a series of questions. So these are unstructured interviews. So there is no particular format of the interview where you have to stick to. Whereas in structured interview, a question will never be repeated, or its place would be changed in the interview format. So if you are going by A, B, C, D, E, you would struck to that pattern, that the first question would be A and the last question would be E. And your response, your respondents will speak in the same fashion. Whereas in unstructured interview, you start with E and you end up somewhere else that you have never thought of. You may be talking about language policy in English language teaching classroom, and that's fine. So who are these people who needs to be interviewed? Learner first, students. What are their learning requirements? What are their needs? Teachers. Now you may ask, why teachers? Because it's, as I said, the teaching is never an isolated activity. We learn subjects, and there are different subjects where language plays an important role. So not only English teachers are the core component of the interviews, but also other subjects such as biology, such as statistics, mathematics, because without language, you cannot express in those subjects. So you may ask a mathematics teacher that how do you want me to improve students' language? And they would say, okay, I want you to look at this aspect. So teachers are more important. Other subject teachers are more important in trying to find out what are the students' need and where students fail. It may happen that students are not aware of language to be used in a particular subject. And therefore, other subject teachers are going to be very helpful. And then you have English teachers in different grades. So if you have a big school where you have a primary section, secondary section, and higher secondary section, then a higher secondary section teacher may interview secondary and primary section teacher. That what do you think? Where should I focus? And similarly, the primary level teacher also should talk to higher secondary and secondary teacher. If a university teacher is researching, then he should go to the school level teachers and he should ask that what do you think are the points where we work on areas to improve the students' language? What are the needs that you think is more crucial? So teachers become, in that sense, collaborators of your work. And that's what we discussed in the last session. Then academic bodies, colleges, universities, and further education institutes. Like if you are doing diploma or industrial technical, I know what ITI is, industrial training institutes, they don't use English much, because when they go out of ITIs, they are going to have a blue collar job, not the white collar job. So how are you as a teacher go to those institutes and say, okay, what are your requirements? If you work in those institutes, these academic bodies, you can conduct a research that what are the needs of your students. If you know the needs of the students through interviews, you can design the course accordingly. And then finally, the parents are the greatest stakeholders. If you know students' parents, what they need as from English language teachers, they will speak more. In South Africa, when I was teaching, I was researching on Gujarati language, we conducted series of structured and unstructured interviews to design a course for South African people for Gujarati language. And the results were astonishing. Their need was just to say, Maro chokro namaste bolvo જોઈએ in Gujarati. જ્યારે માણસો ભેગા થાય ને ત્યારે એને ગુજરાતીમાં નમસ્તે બોલતા આવડવું જોઈએ. રિલિજિયસ ગેધરિંગ્સમાં એને સંકોચ ના થવો જોઈએ. કોઈ એનું નામ પૂછે તો એને નામ આવડવું જોઈએ. Now these are very basic requirements that my kids should be able to speak in Gujarati in religious and social gatherings. So the course has to be designed from that point. But if a student's parents say that my child should read Govardhan Ram Tripaঠি's Saraswati Chandra, all the 4 volumes, and critically analyze, then my course design would be different. Are you with me on this so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so these interviews are going to help you to design the course as an English language teachers, and these are the key components that one has to remember, because this will give you a vision of the course, the target situation analysis, what is where is your target audience, and how much do you require, how much input you want to give, how much efforts you are going to put in in the classroom. The next instrument is questionnaire. So questionnaire can be anonymous individuals. It gives willingness to give truthful answers if they are anonymous. I conducted research for first year students where I gave them a list of questions and they were supposed to mark the answers without giving their names. So if students or parents or institutions have this idea of anonymity, that their name would not come in the research, they would give the answers truthfully and honestly. And there are chances that you would bring in the names of the people as well in the research, but that's a different issue. But anonymity is very important in conducting English language, because people feel fear, they feel shy. There are many factors that they don't want to disclose either to the teacher or the institution. Okay, so light has, electricity has gone, and I think if you are able to hear me, please tell me. Otherwise, because the internet might go off in a couple of minutes. There is no electricity. Are you able to hear me? Okay, I think the electricity has caused the network connection.